All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into Isaiah chapters 49 through 55.
Ooh, good stuff.
Yeah, you've probably heard of Isaiah.
Oh, of course.
But these chapters in particular, I think, are really packed with powerful imagery
Yeah.
and profound messages about God's heart for his people and really for all humanity.
For everyone.
So think of this as a journey from a calling to ultimate redemption.
I like that, a journey.
Yeah.
That's a great way to think about it, because what's so fascinating about these chapters is that
Okay.
it's not like they just lay out a plan, right? It's like watching a tapestry unfold, revealing this intricate and personal journey.
I like that. Okay, so let's start unraveling this tapestry then
Let's do it.
with Isaiah 49.
Okay.
It kicks off with this bold declaration of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was born, the Lord called me. From my mother's womb, he has spoken my name.
Powerful.
It's like this predestined purpose. It's like a calling before you even take your first breath.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And, while this verse can be interpreted in many ways, many scholars see it as pointing towards Jesus. The ultimate servant chosen before birth for a specific mission.
Right.
But it also challenges us, I think, to think about our own purpose. Maybe not as something we achieve, but something already ingrained within us.
I like that. So this mission in Isaiah, it's not just any mission. It's about being a light.
Okay.
Not just to Israel, but to the entire world.
Yeah.
The verse says, I will also make you a light for the Gentiles, that my salvation may reach to the ends of the earth.
Wow.
It's a huge concept, this idea of God's plan encompassing everyone.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I mean, it completely shatters the idea of a limited or exclusive God.
Right.
And I think it's a radical statement for that time.
Yeah.
A message of universal love and a salvation that goes beyond any boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've established this powerful calling.
But then Isaiah 50 takes a turn.
Oh.
The verses describe suffering and obedience, saying, I offered my back to those who beat me, my cheeks to those who pulled out my beard.
It's vivid.
Intense imagery.
Yeah.
How does this fit into the overall narrative?
Well, I think this is where we see that true obedience, true dedication to a calling, often comes at a cost. It foreshadows the idea that following a calling often involves sacrifice and hardship.
Right.
And this theme, echoes throughout history. And of course, it directly prefigures the suffering of Christ.
It really makes you think about the sacrifices people make when they truly believe in something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
It's not always sunshine and roses.
No.
And this chapter doesn't shy away from that reality.
Nope.
But then we move into Isaiah 51.
Okay.
And there's a shift.
Interesting.
Instead of suffering, there's this comfort and reassurance woven through the verses. We see, listen to me, you who pursue righteousness. Look to the rock from which you were cut. Why the sudden change?
Well, I see Isaiah 51 as a reminder of heritage, of God's faithfulness, even in the face of hardship.
Okay.
You can kind of think of it as a pep talk.
Right.
A message of hope for those who feel lost or discouraged.
Yeah, and there's also that powerful reminder in verse 6 to focus on what's eternal.
Right.
Lift up your eyes to the heavens, look at the earth beneath. The heavens will vanish like smoke, but my salvation will last forever.
Wow. Yeah.
It really makes you pause and consider what truly matters in the grand scheme of things.
It's a timeless question.
It is.
That we all face.
Yeah.
And Isaiah 51, I think, provides a powerful answer. It pushes us to shift our perspective, beyond the temporary and focus on the eternal.
So we've gone from calling to sacrifice to the reassurance of God's presence. And then we hit Isaiah 53.
Okay.
Which is, let's be honest, a pretty well-known chapter.
For sure.
Especially when trying to understand who Jesus was.
Absolutely. You could say that Isaiah 53 is the chapter of messianic prophecy.
Yes.
It paints such a vivid picture of Jesus and what he came to do.
And you almost can't read these words without immediately thinking about Jesus.
Right.
He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain.
Yeah.
This description is so raw and powerful.
Yeah.
It's a far cry from the triumphant king many were expecting.
And, the chapter goes even deeper.
Okay.
It lays out, I think, the core of the gospel message when it says, but he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed.
Wow.
This is where we see the concept of atonement.
Right.
Where Jesus takes on the punishment we deserve.
It's a profound idea.
Yeah.
That's resonated with people for centuries.
Sure.
This idea that someone else, someone perfect, willingly took on the burden of our mistakes.
Wow.
It's definitely something to ponder.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is. But Isaiah 53 doesn't just stop there. It also explains the purpose of that sacrifice, and then things seem to shift again in Isaiah 54.
Right.
We move from suffering to restoration and hope.
Yes, it feels like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
There's a sense of new beginnings, of God's commitment to his people, versus like, do not be afraid, you will not be put to shame, for your maker is your husband, the Lord Almighty is his name.
Powerful stuff.
It offers so much comfort and promise.
It is powerful, isn't it? And that image of unshakable love despite challenges is particularly striking. Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken. We're talking about ancient times here, times of real uncertainty and danger. I think we can all relate to that need for something solid, for something that won't change no matter what life throws at you.
Absolutely. Right. Even today, with all our modern advancements, we still crave that sense of security, that feeling of being loved unconditionally.
We do.
But speaking of modern times, let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
We've walked through this incredible unfolding of God's plan, from the initial calling to the sacrifice, and now to this restoration of his love. But what does all this have to say to us today? In the 21st century, how do we take these ancient words and find relevance in our modern lives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is, how do we bridge the gap
between
these ancient texts and our modern experiences?
Exactly.
I'm all for appreciating the historical context and the poetic beauty of these verses, but I also want to know, how does this apply to me? How can we make these words actionable in our lives?
Well, let's start with the concept of calling.
Okay.
We see it clearly in Isaiah 49, this idea of being chosen for a purpose. Right. Now, we might not all have a dramatic prophetic calling like Isaiah or Jesus.
Yeah.
But I believe everyone has a sense of purpose. A unique set of gifts and talents they're meant to share with the world. What do you think?
Oh, for sure.
Have you ever felt that pull towards a certain path or career?
I think everyone has at some point felt that nudge towards something, that feeling of being drawn to a particular field or cause. But it's not always easy to figure out right.
Right.
It's not like we get a telegram from God saying, this is your purpose.
There you go.
It's a process of discovery, of trying things out and seeing what resonates.
Yeah.
So it's less about waiting for a lightning bolt and more about actively seeking out what feels right, what ignites that passion within us.
I love that. Yeah. It's about recognizing that each of us has something unique to offer. A role to play in the grand scheme of things. And that often takes discernment, listening to that inner voice, that sense of being pulled towards something bigger than ourselves.
But let's be realistic. The path of purpose isn't always easy. Isaiah 50 doesn't sugarcoat the fact that following your calling can be tough.
It can be very tough.
There will be challenges, setbacks, and moments where you want to throw in the towel. How do we reconcile that with this idea of finding our purpose and living a fulfilling life?
Well, it's true. The path of purpose is rarely a straight line.
No.
There will be times when we face opposition, when we have to make sacrifices, when we feel like giving up.
Yeah.
But Isaiah 50 also reminds us that we're not alone in those struggles.
Okay.
Remember the verse, because the sovereign Lord helps me, I will not be disgraced. It's like having a cosmic backup system, a source of strength we can tap into when things get tough.
It's a good reminder that even when things are rough, we can find support and guidance.
Absolutely.
That feeling of not being alone in our struggles can make a world of difference.
Oh, for sure. And that's where the message of Isaiah 51 becomes even more relevant.
Okay.
That comfort and reassurance, the reminder of God's faithfulness and his promises.
Right. Finding an anchor in the midst of a storm.
Right. Those words can provide a sense of grounding when everything else feels chaotic.
Exactly.
But then we have Isaiah 53.
Okay.
And the message of the suffering servant. How does that fit into this idea of finding our purpose and living it out in the real world?
Yeah.
Seems a bit counterintuitive, right?
It does.
Why suffer if you're following your calling?
Well, Isaiah 53, while a difficult chapter, reminds us that true leadership, true service, often involves sacrifice. It's not about chasing power or recognition for ourselves, but about prioritizing the needs of others. Sometimes even above our own.
So it's more we-focused than me-focused.
I think so.
Like using our gifts and talents to make a positive impact, even if it means making some tough choices along the way. It's about playing the long game, recognizing that true fulfillment often comes from giving back, from making a difference beyond ourselves.
Exactly. True fulfillment often lies in service. In making a positive impact, it's a challenging message.
But also incredibly inspiring when you think about it.
Yeah.
Think about the people who have made incredible sacrifices for the betterment of others.
Right.
Those who fought for justice, who stood up for their beliefs, who dedicated their lives to helping those in need. These are the people who truly embody the spirit of the suffering servant.
It's humbling when you think about the impact these individuals have had on the world.
It is.
They remind us that even in the darkest times, hope exists and that change is possible. But let's move on to Isaiah 54, which takes us back to those themes of restoration and hope. It's like emerging from a dark tunnel into the light.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's a fresh start, a testament to God's enduring love and faithfulness. Those verses, "Do not be afraid, you will not be put to shame. For your Maker is your husband, the Lord Almighty is his name." Offer so much comfort and promise, even thousands of years later. What stands out to you in these verses?
Well, I'm drawn to the imagery of unshakable love, especially in the face of challenges. "Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken." It's a powerful message.
Yes.
A reminder that even when things feel unstable, there's a constant, a love that remains firm. It's something we can all cling to, especially when life throws those curveballs.
You know, that's one of the things I find so fascinating about these chapters. They speak to those universal human needs, the need for purpose, for love, for security. And they offer a perspective that transcends our immediate circumstances.
It's like they offer a glimpse into a bigger picture, a reminder that we're part of something much grander than our own individual lives.
Exactly. And that brings us to Isaiah 55.
Yes.
Which I see as a grand invitation. What do you think?
Absolutely. It culminates in this beautiful call to accept God's grace, we read. "Come, all you who are thirsty, come to the waters." It's like an open door welcoming everyone, regardless of their background or past mistakes. It's pretty radical, even by today's standards.
Yeah, it is a powerful statement of inclusivity. But the chapter doesn't stop there.
No, it doesn't.
It also reminds us that God's ways are not our ways. We see this in the verse. "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways." It's humbling, to say the least.
Yeah.
What do you think is the significance of this verse?
I think it's a good reminder that, we don't have all the answers.
Right.
We might not always understand God's plan, but we can trust in his goodness and his love for us. It's a call to surrender control, to lean into faith even when things don't make sense from our limited perspective.
Surrender control, easier said than done, right?
Oh, for sure.
We like to be in the driver's seat.
We do, yeah.
Map out our own course.
Right.
But there's a certain freedom in letting go.
Absolutely.
In trusting that there's a bigger plan at play, even if we can't see the full picture.
As we've been talking about these themes of calling and sacrifice, I've been thinking about that tension that sometimes exists between pursuing our own individual purpose and recognizing the needs of those around us. How do we balance our own aspirations with the responsibility we have to our families, our communities, and the world at large?
Yeah.
It's a tricky balancing act.
It is. It's a question that's been pondered for centuries. It's easy to get caught up in chasing our own goals and dreams.
Right.
But Isaiah reminds us that true fulfillment often comes from aligning our purpose with something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
It's not about abandoning our aspirations, but about finding a way to integrate them with a sense of service and responsibility to others.
So it's like finding that sweet spot where our passions and talents can be used to make a positive impact.
Right.
It's not an either-or situation, but rather a both-hand approach. We can pursue our dreams while also contributing to the well-being of others.
Exactly. And that intersection might look different for everyone. For some, it might mean dedicating their careers to serving others, maybe as teachers, healthcare workers, or social activists.
Sure.
For others, it might be about using their creative talents to inspire and uplift, or simply being a source of love and support for their families and communities.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected. that our actions have a ripple effect far beyond ourselves.
Absolutely.
It's about choosing to use our influence, no matter how big or small, to make a positive difference in the world. It doesn't have to be these grandiose gestures.
No.
Even small acts of kindness and compassion can have a profound impact.
It's those small acts of love and service that often have the biggest impact, and they often go unnoticed.
Right.
But they make the world a better place one small gesture at a time.
It's a beautiful thought, the idea that we can all be part of something bigger than ourselves. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Isaiah 49 through 55, what's the one key takeaway you would leave our listener with today?
I would say the invitation of Isaiah 55. It's a call to step outside of ourselves, to embrace a perspective that's bigger than our own desires and ambitions. True abundance doesn't come from material wealth or personal success, but from aligning our lives with God's purpose and allowing His love to flow through us. It's about trusting the process and embracing the journey.
So, to you listening, what resonated with you today? Where do you sense a call to serve, to love, to make a difference? Whatever it is, don't be afraid to step into that calling, even if it feels uncertain or challenging. Trust me, you're not alone.
Yeah.
You have a source of strength and guidance that will be there every step of the way.
Beautifully said. And as you go about your week, I encourage you to ponder the question, what does it mean for you to align your life with God's purpose? It's a journey worth taking, a story waiting to be written.
This has been such a rich conversation. I always find it amazing how these ancient texts can still speak to us so powerfully today.
There's a depth to these chapters that we've only just begun to explore.
Right.
I think that's part of what makes Scripture so compelling. It's a living word that continues to unfold throughout our lives, revealing new layers of meaning as we grow and evolve.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon to explore more thought-provoking ideas and uncover those hidden gems of wisdom. Until then, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep the conversation going.
And remember, the invitation is always open. Come to the waters, be refreshed, and discover the incredible possibilities of a life lived in alignment with God's love and purpose.